Pressman from Mount Savage. My favorite baseball team is the Baltimore Orioles. Well, my Aunt Dell was a professional photographer, and she was always taking pictures. She lived in Uniontown, Pennsylvania. When I was a kid, I used to deliver Liberty Magazine all over Mount Savage, and the magazine was 5 cents, and I got 3 cents. Wow, yeah. Well, we had a tennis court on at home, and we played tennis all the time. I played with Mellor Jones. He spent the summer with his grandfather up on the hill above us, and we'd get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to play tennis. And we would challenge anybody in Mount Savage. A couple guys come up one time. They thought they were going to beat us, but we beat them. Oh, I liked her big brown eyes. She was in high school, I was in high school. She was in the 9th grade. And so one time, they used to have dances up at the Odd Fellows Hall in Mount Savage on Foundry Row. And I wrote her a note and asked her if I could take her to the dance on Saturday night. Will you permit me? And she answered the note. She said, okay. So then we started going to dances on Saturday night. And from then on, we started going together. Well, we lived in Mount Savage, and I got a job on the railroad at Cumberland. And, I had various jobs. I worked in the office, and I worked out in the yard. I put mail on the passenger train, and then the B&O took us over to 76, and I went to the B&O office in Cumberland, and I was working there in the trainmaster's office, and one day the superintendent stopped by my desk and he said, Carl, how would you like to be my chief clerk? And I said, well, there's nothing I'd like better. So he said, well, you report to my office in the morning. So I stayed then in the superintendent's office as chief clerk to the superintendent, and I retired in 1982. Well, I worked on the Western Maryland and the B&O. I worked on the Western Maryland from 37 to 80, 37 to 76. 76 we went to the B&O. They took us all over there. We were afraid we weren't going to have a job when those two railroads merged, but everybody had a job. Oh, we've been on 7 cruises. We've been to Eastern Caribbean, the Western Caribbean,
Bermuda.
2 or 3 times.
Portugal and Spain.
And, well, we've been all over the Caribbean, and the first cruise right after I retired, and we liked that. We had a cabin in regular cabin, and then after the cruise started, the cruise director asked us if we'd like to be upgraded. Of course, we said sure, so he put us up in the cabins where the doctors and the lawyers expensive than the one we had. So we enjoyed that cruise very much. And then that was a cruise to the Caribbean, and we went to cruise to the Eastern Caribbean and the Western Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico, in around there, all around. Well, we bought the house for $4,000, and we lived in it for, 30 years, I think, or 40. And one day, the guy that rode with Danny Williams next door said to me, Carl, did you ever think about selling your house? And I said, well, not really, but I said, I guess I would sell it if I got the right price. And so he said, well, my wife always wanted a big house. He said, would you care if I brought her up to look at it? And I said, no, I don't care. So the next day he brought her up, and she fell in love with the house. And the next couple days in, they both come back and they asked me how much I wanted for the house. And I said, well, I think it's worth $50,000. And Etta, her name was Etta, and she said to me, oh, Carl, she said, I'd love to give you 50, but I don't have that much money. She said, how about 45? And I said, no. I said, that's too low. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll sell it to you for 48. And she said, okay, we'll buy it. Well, I took lessons from a lady named Lena Gerson in Frostburg. She had a studio on Main Street on the second floor. And I used to ride the C&P passenger train to Frostburg after school and rode to Frostburg. Got off the depot and walked up to the top of Main Street. Took my lesson. It was a half an hour lesson. And then I caught the 10 after 5 bus back to Mount Savage. And my favorite songs were My Cheating Heart and I Can't Stop Loving You and My Happiness. Oh, Ruth and Emma called me Pete. And Ruth used to call me Petey J. One day some guy came to her house and I was there. And she said, Mr. So-and-so, I want you to meet Petey Dick. I damn near died right on the spot. Yeah, all my grandkids call me Pat. And my daughters call me Dad and Pat.